So let's talk about the cost of owning a car, right? Because we can all agree that right now it's getting crazy, right? Along with everything else that goes in this country, right? Everything is expensive. But when it comes to owning a car, it's getting to a point where, like, how are people able to even afford these things, right? And as someone that's been in, had $30,000 of credit card debt and was able to clean that all up, I've developed a lot of discipline when it comes to my finances. And usually, what I would recommend is if you're going to buy a car, buy it in cash, right? Because a car is a depreciating asset, and there's no point in trying to finance these things. But it's got to a point where, even just buying a used car is, it's costing tens of thousands of dollars. And it's hard to just say, you know what, if you're going to buy a car, if a car costs $30,000, spend $30,000. Like a lot of people don't have $30,000 to just hand out. Right. Some people just don't even have $1,000 in their savings account. But it's getting very difficult to just say buy a car, purchase a car cash when you're talking about cars being $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. And even though I would still recommend that because that's the best way to go, it is becoming more difficult. So when you're talking about the cost of cars, like obviously you start with car payments, right? And I remember I did a video about car payments, and there's people that I thought $600 was a lot, right? But there are people that are paying way more than that. They're paying like $1,000, $1,100, $1,200. People are paying crazy amounts, where it's getting to a point where you would consider these payments rents. For some people's rent, but some people are paying these large amounts for car payments. And obviously, like, you have to worry. Not only do you have to worry about car payments, but you have to also worry about insurance premiums. I know my insurance jumped up probably like $40-$50 in the past 2 years. It's just like, why are the cost of these premiums going up? And for a lot of people, some people have doubled. Right. So then you got to worry car payments. Then you got the paying for parking, like little things like paying for parking. You got to worry about tolls. Gas prices are not as bad as they used to be. Like, they've gone down a little bit. So that's not killing people. But if you probably live in like California, maybe it's just ridiculous. And then you also got to worry about taxes, right? So just the cost of just owning a vehicle is just getting to a point where, like, how can most people afford it, right? Along with other things that they have to pay, right? And we understand that when it comes to housing is one of our largest expense in our budgets. Cars is probably second. Right, so we need a car, especially in the United States. Like, if you're not living out these big cities, you need a car. So it's hard to get to a point where you have to when you're trying to own a car, where you have to pay for all these things, and the prices of cars cost so much. Insurance premiums are going up. It's hard to really afford these cars. And so what's the reason for some of this, right? Obviously, interest rates, right? The Feds raised the interest rates. So if you're someone that's going to finance a car, you're dealing with very high interest rates. And on top of that, if you have bad credit, you're going to deal with even higher interest rates. And that's why I say it's better to just purchase the vehicle cash, so you don't have to deal with that. But obviously, if you're gonna purchase these used cars, then it's gonna be difficult to do that, and you're gonna have to finance these cars. But interest rates are much higher, making car payments much more expensive. You also got to deal with technology, right? Now we're dealing with technology. Like, you look at a lot of these new cars, or a lot of these cars, they have so much technology. You're dealing with chips. You're dealing with all types of technology that makes also insurance, like for insurance companies, paying out if there's an accident, paying out these fixing up these cars is going to cost a lot more. So that makes it more expensive. And then you also got you got these for some people electronic vehicles. A lot of people, there's so many issues when it comes to these EV cars, especially if there's an issue with it, or maybe you get into an accident, totals. It's very expensive dealing with these EV cars. And I don't have an EV car, but if you've read the stories, a lot of people have so many issues when it comes to just gas, dealing with energy and fixing these cars up. So it's so expensive. All these things, when you're talking about interest rates, new technology, EV cars, it's so expensive to maintain these cars. So I came across this article in the Wall Street Journal, and it was like, all right, the cost of car ownership is getting painful. So I'm gonna read this real quick. It's a quick article, and it'll explain like some of the reasons I've talked about as well. So it says, all right, gas prices are in check, but nearly everything else related to the vehicle is getting more expensive. So it says, one place Americans still can't get relief from is inflation behind the wheel. Many of the costs related to car ownership continue to outpace the consumer price index last month. Car insurance premiums rose 20.6% in January from a year earlier. A trip to the mechanic, the price of parking space, the highway tolls are up. Offsetting of savings from one of the big exceptions is falling gas prices. So obviously for that one, I mean, that helps a little bit, for depending on where you live. If you live in California, then I don't know if there's any hope for you. But for a lot of people, all these expenses along with gas prices are just making it, impossible to like own a vehicle. So it says the ballooning cost of these cars in the driveway can squeeze budgets. Transportation, the American second biggest expense after housing, and one that is hard to cut. So it says already more Americans are feeling the strain. In the fourth quarter of last year, 7.7% of auto loans transitioned to delinquency on an annualized basis, according to the New York Fed, the highest rate in 13 years. So it's getting to a point where people are starting to become delinquent when it comes to these cars, because they're getting, if you think about it, if everything is inflating when it comes to housing, groceries, everything is costing more, something's going to give, right? Obviously, people are going to make sure they pay their housing is secure, but things like vehicles are going to get to a point where, like, all right, I can't afford this car. I'm going to have to let something go. And one of those payments are car payments. And like I said, some of these car payments are $700,000, $800,000, $900,000, which is crazy. I would never think to pay something that much on a vehicle. But there's some people that are doing it. And now you can see that, obviously, when it comes to delinquencies, that's up. So it says it's been challenging for consumers over the past years when it comes to car ownership, said Greg Brennan, director of automated AAA. The total annual cost of owning a car, including expenses such as gas and insurance, climbed to $12,182 in 2023, up from $10,728 in 2022, according to the latest estimates. And it says a big part of that increase is due to higher interest rates, which raises the cost of borrowing money for a car. The price of a new car itself rose a mellow 0.7% year over year, according to the Labor Department data. But that was from an already high base. The average transaction price of a new vehicle rose from $39,813 in January 2021 to $47,358 to last month. So that's a new car. Used car, obviously gonna be a little lower, but it's just impossible if you're thinking about buying a new car, forget about it. You might as well just go used. So this has been the biggest climb in prices in the shortest period of time that we've seen. So it says higher car prices are one of the factors pushing up car insurance premiums. Premiums are also rising because of new technology now in cars, which can be expensive to replace. Cars have become more sophisticated, driving up the value of the cost of fixing them, said Neil. And it says there's also a lag between insurance pricing and economic conditions, which is why auto insurance costs have suffered from higher than expected inflation. So it says the rising cost of maintenance and body work is also driving up insurance rates. That fender bender may cost 7.9% more than a year ago, given the surge in the price of repairs. The highest cost of a car ownership last year was something many people don't consider: depreciation. Your car loses value each year you drive. So what's the solution, right? Obviously, we can all bitch and complain about it, but that's not going to solve any of your problems, right? You're gonna have to get your money up. Right, that for me, that's my solution. Right, get my money up, because crying and complaining about this, when it comes to the way our economy is going right now, everything is all messed up. So my solution is just focus on increasing my income, right? Because that's the only thing I can control. Right. Obviously, if you're working at a job, you're working a 9 to 5. You gotta the most you can do is just ask for a raise. Right. Most you'll probably get 3%, if that. So you're kind of limited when it comes to just trying to keep up with the cost of living in this country. So for me, my solution is always to increase my income, right? And this is what I focus on every day, like trying to make money. If you're someone that has a side hustle, side business, work on that while you're working your full-time job, because you have to increase your income. That's the solution right now, because everything is getting expensive, and no one cares that you can't afford things, right? These politicians, government don't even care. And for a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck, I'm always a proponent of making sure make sure your expenses are low, and that should always be the case, regardless of how much money that you make. You should always be making sure that you're living within your means. But focus should be trying to increase your income, trying to make more money, however you can, starting a side business, starting a side hustle, whatever you can to increase that income. Because right now, with the cost of things going up, it's very hard to keep up with these things. And I'm the type of person that, even though I see what's going on in my mind, I'm like, this is BS, but I can only control what I can control. And my focus is to make more money, because no one cares about what you can afford, what you can't afford. And the only person that can control what you do is you, right? So that's my goal. So let me know what your thoughts are. Are you when it comes to the cost of your owning your car? Make sure to leave a comment down below, hit the like button, share, and if you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe. All right, so you guys take care and have a good one. Later.